I believe that the future of business is not about, it's not created, it's co-created. And that's an important concept to grasp, but difficult to put into practice because it involves a culture shift. It involves the top down from saying we need a culture shift. And a lot of it just starts with the mission and purpose and intention of a company anyway, right? We look at businesses and some of the executives that I've surveyed, one of their top priorities in the coming years is to get closer to customers. I'm sure that's been on their mind every single year that question's been asked. But really, as a customer, I can't seem to get a human being when I have a problem, right? I go through these automated systems. You've invested in all kinds of technologies to try to manage the customer relationship, yet you don't know anything about me. I can't talk to you. You don't try to cater to my needs in any of your iterations or communication. So getting closer to me is not anything that you're demonstrating from, I guess, a human standpoint. If you're talking about technology, well, sure, you're facilitating faster, efficient connections if I enjoy an automated process and pressing buttons, or maybe having my voice translated into some type of codes like transfer me to customer service. I'm sorry, what is your problem? And maybe I can help you. And that automated voice just drives you nuts. But it's a long, funny way of just saying this. The only way to get closer to customers is to move your company, your business, your processes, your methodologies, your philosophies, your mission, and move the people around it to get closer to customers. And then have a reward system in place internally that says, you did a great job, we are closer to our customers, this has benefited as a result, and you have earned X. And so you actually create a value ecosystem within the organization to want to get closer to customers. And I don't know that exists today. So it's a bigger move than anything that's just around social media. I'm not a social media guru. I don't pretend to be one, but I do study the behavior on either side of the channel. So if you host a Facebook page, if you host a Twitter presence, if you have a YouTube channel, what's happening on that side? And then what's happening back on this side? And it's amazing how disconnected they are, even though they're connected. So, they're channels, sure, they're communities, but it's about people with needs and expectations and people who represent a business and whether or not they can meet those needs or expectations, not just today, but every day. That's why I say we don't need social media champions. We need leaders. We need visionaries. We need people who are trying to take the business and move it in a direction that's greater for not just social media, but greater for the customer. Because the customer is becoming, in fact, I say it this way. It's not necessarily about the social customer. It's about the connected customer, because that could be on any kind of platform. And it's not just about a social business. It's about an adaptive business. Right? It's the recognition that, number one, there have to be a connection. And then two, that businesses have to compete for the future by competing for the moment. These communities, wherever they're at, are enablers for that reality and also for the expansion of that reality. And by that I mean this. The connected customer, I think social media was so intriguing for certain businesses initially because it was this idea of one-to-many. Right? We could take our message and our command and control approach and reach many. And it was less expensive than traditional marketing. But really how social media works, and when you break it down to functionality, like how human beings find, share, discover, it came to this. It was an opportunity for a business to connect one-to-one to many, because this one, the person, felt that it was valuable enough to share. Defining that shareable experience is now going to become a business function moving forward. So you can't design that in a SCRM strategy. You can only employ technologies around it that help you engage to facilitate that interaction. That's a different process. So you need technology and you need culture, and that's a hard unification to seek, because some people are approaching this from a technology standpoint. This is our CRM infrastructure, and this is how we're going to socialize it. Great. How are you going to socialize the processes and the thinking and the engagement around that as well? And it has to go hand in hand. They're both equally important. But when you bring culture into the conversation, people just start to they sweat, they start to, or they'll just become skeptics that this is not how we're going to solve for this problem, because it's a political uphill battle, and it's not an easy one. But if once the leaders are bought in, and hopefully they're leaders because they've demonstrated the capacity to lead, if you can make the case that there's advantage here for the business, and also advantage for the business relationships with customers through research, through data, through all of the things that exist, then any leader who wouldn't support at least a pilot maybe should have their leadership questioned. I have yet to meet an organizational leader that isn't open to the opportunity. But it wasn't because I came in with a discussion of social media. It was because I had first researched the opportunity. I'd worked with, for example, there's always a stakeholder, there's always a champion, there's always someone who knows this is the right thing to do, and they know that they can't sell it through social proper. So what they'll look for is the expertise to support their intuition or their instinct. And they know how their business works, and we need information that supports it from this angle and this angle and this angle, and so-and-so is going to need to hear it this way, and so-and-so is going to need to hear it this way. And there's always that person within an organization, or sometimes it's multiple people. So you design around that. And then you get the audience with the executive based on how this was orchestrated. And of course it makes great sense because you went and did all of the homework, you went and did all of the research, so all of, at least the hard work was done. It was just a matter of presenting it in a way that was consumable, like, oh, that's great, I get it. Now, it's interesting though, because getting from the ask to the presentation, you learn everything. Not a lot of businesses are doing that. It's quite the opposite. They're quite content with just getting a Facebook or Twitter strategy and marketing that way, because for now it's working great until that social customer, that connected customer becomes a little bit more sophisticated about how they want that experience. And the minute it doesn't work for them is the minute they leave. But who can afford any leaving right now? Not when you can actually, when everything's available to you to make more meaningful relationships. To give you one example of a company that's publicly willing to say how its culture has changed is Dell. And I know that everybody talks about Dell quite a bit. I would like to use Dell as an example to answer your question. They have, from the inside out, from a culture shift, redesigned the organization to be more social, to be more connected. And it is starting with the collaboration infrastructure. So it's not just a hub and spoke. It's a hub and spoke and multiple hubs and spokes. So there's a central body. But then there's other central bodies that specifically work within certain organizations, within certain business units. So they have HR, they have legal, they have B2B, B2C, they have direct, they have outlet, they have no shortage of presences within social networks, each designed to serve a different customer function, but they all work together, including product development. In that example where they would fix something for the greater good, rather than respond to each and every complaint. So adaptive. And there's, if for anybody that's watching this, they can Google Dell and social business, and there's actual schematics of how they've structured their organization. But you talk to anybody at Dell, and they'll say, "What's the one thing that led to this, aside from having to respond out of Dell hell?" It was Michael Dell, the top, saying, "We need to change how we do things," and built a new culture that supported a collaborative infrastructure in order to collaborate externally.